If you're ready to unlock your potential to transform the world around you, then join us here on the Lovin Leadership podcast as we dive into the art of leadership, exploring cutting-edge strategies and timeless wisdom, empowering you to become the exceptional leader you were born to be. You'll learn from inspiring interviews with visionaries, changemakers, and thought leaders who give us practical and actionable, real-life leadership strategies, and we'll celebrate authenticity and empathy because leadership is about connecting with others on a profound level. So if you're ready to transform your leadership journey, don't miss a single episode of the Lovin Leadership podcast. Subscribe today for access to a wealth of wisdom, inspiration, and actionable strategies. Let's redefine leadership and create a world where every leader leads with love, passion, and purpose. This podcast is proudly supported by the College of St. Mary, dedicated to uncovering the essence of exceptional leadership for today's world and beyond. Enrich your leadership journey alongside a cohort of industry experts through the Master of Science in Organizational Leadership program at CSM. Crafted to suit your schedule, this online degree can be yours in just 12 months. Are you prepared to soar in your career? Take the leap forward with the College of St. Mary, shaping leaders for tomorrow. Explore your potential today and learn more at csm.edu/MSOL. Welcome to the Lovin Leadership podcast, where we bring you interviews with extraordinary leaders who are changing the world. I'm Dr. Beth Merkel, your Lovin Leadership podcast host. And today we're thrilled to have Dr. Joseph Daniel-Hoste in the spotlight. Joseph is a professional musician and an academic who made a remarkable shift from the world of arts to nonprofit leadership. Armed with a doctorate in music and a master's degree in organizational leadership, he currently serves as the operations director at Crossroads of Michigan, focusing on poverty alleviation and human-centered services in urban Detroit. Joseph brings a unique blend of musical passion and practical leadership acumen to the conversation to inspire our Lovin Leadership audience. Thank you so much for joining us on the Lovin Leadership podcast, Joseph Daniel-Hoste.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am very excited to explore this topic with you.
I think you are the perfect guest for this time. First of all, I love you to death, Joseph. I just think the world of you as an academic, as a practical leader, as a person. But we have on the show, we've been exploring leadership from this, well, we'll call it a 3,000-foot view, right? We've gotten pretty theoretical. We, talk about big picture. And we always try and bring it down to actionable steps in each episode. But Joseph, you've walked the walk, and I have been with you on an important part of that journey, and I've seen the steps that you've made. So I thought what we're missing on the Lovin Leadership podcast is somebody who can walk us through that real life scenario of how to develop yourself as a leader. Because when you and I met, you were considering coming onto the MS in Organizational Leadership program with College of St. Mary, but you already had a PhD. You already had a job that you loved as the operations manager for Christ Church in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. So by everyone's definition, you were already a success. Yet, you made the decision to intentionally leave your comfort zone to spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, energy, and frankly, a good chunk of change to learn about how to be the most effective leader you can be. So tell us, Joseph, about this critical point in your story. What the heck possessed you to change everything and pursue leadership?
Yes.
Yes.
So, thank you for that beautiful introduction and summation of my journey. As you said, I spent 25 years as a professional musician, working in churches, working in academia, and through various circumstances, I found myself suddenly at Christ Church Grosse Pointe in an administrative role, a senior leadership support role. And after 2 years of being there, I was becoming aware that in the big table meetings, when I'm in the room with the senior leadership, I was struggling to feel comfortable there. I knew on some level that I deserved to sit at that table, that I had the intellectual prowess, the understanding of the topics we were talking about, but imposter syndrome was setting in really intentionally. I'm also just the type of person that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I was in my early 40s. We could call it a midlife crisis if you'd like. But one day I found myself Googling business programs. And the first thing that I saw was that I had to decide what path to go, because there are 2 business degrees in the graduate world. There's the MBA and the Master of Science in Organizational Leadership. And I knew very quickly that an MBA was not my journey. I don't want to sit in the big chair. I've been in the big chair. I've been in lots of different big chairs. And I am happiest sitting next to the big chair. And so the degree in organizational leadership made the most sense to me just for what I was looking for. College of St. Mary was 1 year. That was about a timeline that I thought I could do. Because I was working full time, I was married, I had all of the adult responsibilities that so many of us have. And so that was it. I met you, and we dove right in. And point in my life is really the best way to say that, because my life took a trajectory at that point in my life that I would have never believed possible.
And that's where you and I met. You were seeking, right? And I remember my journey at this point in my life as well. And I think we bonded a lot over that, where both of us were doing fine. And then, but there was this something inside that said, there's more. And I didn't have a doctorate like you did. I was like, what the heck is this guy doing? Oh, well, there's this call, and I recognized it in you because it was the same one I answered when I joined the MS in Org Leadership. And, this is not necessarily an advertisement for the program, but both of us have been through the program, me many, many years ago, you more recently, but it was transformational. This type of developmental journey, like seeking out a pathway, maybe I don't know how to become the best leader I can, but I'm going to choose a framework that works for me, and how transformational that can be. So
yes, I'm sorry to jump on you, but you used the word call, and that really resonates with me, particularly with my work in the church. So many churches even use the word call to describe the employment process. What I would come to learn is authentic leadership. But at that juncture of meeting you, I didn't have those words. I had not learned that vocabulary. I just knew that something in me wanted to be more. So yes, this call, this part of my soul that, I don't mean to get metaphysical about it, but really that's how I view this journey that I joined, because it was a journey of self, diving into who I was and who I wanted to be. You and I have laughed over the last couple of years, and not to be an advertisement for the program, but there's a lot of writing. And those first 4 papers, it's really hard for me to remember them with a smile, because it was,
I laugh, you cry.
Yes, coming to terms with that journey, but that alignment was so, again, critical for what I was seeking.
Yeah, because I've talked to so many people, whether it's prospective students or just, people in any of the organizations I'm involved in and in my consulting, who don't really see themselves as leaders yet. Like they're not comfortable with that term. Maybe it's imposter syndrome. Maybe it's just that they don't have the language or the awareness, but they feel like I could really contribute to the mission of this organization. I can be part of the solution, or, oh my gosh, I could do it so much better than this person who's getting paid 3 times what I'm getting paid. Either way, there's this spot that has to be filled. And I would define that as kind of that call to leadership that says, I have something to contribute. I don't know what that is, but let's find out.
Right. Yes. And I think that something that contributes to that is honestly just the word leader. So many of us are in organizations where there are clear job titles that are leadership titles and support titles. And it's, I think, very easy for people outside quote unquote leadership to feel like there's not a place for them in the conversation. And what a mistake for those of us who have leader in our title, not to rely on those that are around us. I, in preparation for this recording, I revisited everything else in the podcast. It was great to hear you talk with those visionaries at that 30,000 feet. But such a common theme is we don't have all the answers. Leadership is this mutual journey between the leader and the follower, if you will. And everyone learning from one another and putting things together, coming up with the best solution. We come to the table with different skills. That's where the formal education and just the way we're designed come into it. I think we as leaders do a disservice if we believe anyone in our organization lacks valuable input into the way things are being done.
I love that because, as you said, without followers, for lack of a better word, without people to lead, who needs leaders, right? And yet without leaders, true visionary, authentic, serving centered, other-centric leadership, really nothing gets done. We maintain a status quo. You talked a lot about in the program, and I have the advantage of having known you through at least a year of the academic program, and then, we've been friends for several years now. But you talked a lot about authenticity and being a servant. How did you figure out that's where those were the words that resonated with you? How and how did it show up? Like, how did you know, and how are you using it?
The journey started with the self, and unpacking my own personal past. I grew up in Texas. I was a young gay man who loved to play Mozart, living in a cornfield with people that wanted to play football, drive big trucks, and go to engineering school. I think from a very young age, authenticity has been very important to me. As I grew into adulthood, one of my tenets of my philosophy of teaching was authentic self, that this is who I am. And I have things to offer. And if you want to sit at my table and learn from me, that's fantastic. But, I am who I am. To quote the Broadway show, I Am What I Am from La Cage aux Folles. Little music plug there. So that level, and maybe Beth, that's where the journey to leadership started for me, because I was feeling inauthentic at that leadership table. There was something in my psyche that was missing. I think for me, it's the credential. I am dangerously overeducated. This degree was my 5th college degree.
You're going for a record.
Yes. But that's just where I live, and I think I'm at peace with that. I learned through the MSOL program that one of my Gallup strengths is learner, and so like doing the formal learning process is just part of my fiber. So that's where the authenticness comes from within me. Just finding that peace with myself and unpacking previous experiences in my personal life. As a young professional, I had awful jobs. I didn't handle situations well, as no one usually does when they're in their 20s. Fresh out of
Right?
graduate school, I was the smartest person in the world. Through a leadership program, I had to revisit some of that. And I had to reconcile, those experiences weren't nearly as awful as my memory wanted me to think they were. And in those, I learned something. And once I got past my own ego, my own hubris, then we were off and running. And that was 4 weeks into my program. I remember the paper that I had to write. And so those first papers, I had been fighting against being a leader. This wasn't me. It was all histrionic and melodramatic. And then suddenly it was like, no, actually, I know what I'm doing. I have a voice. I have things to contribute, and I deserve to be here, and I deserve to be identified as a leader.
What changed?
I think I just decided I wasn't going to be afraid of being a leader. There was just the decision that I could always be a victim of my imposter syndrome. I could always live in that, I'm not as smart as these people. And, they're so brilliant the way they are able to manipulate budgets and cast a vision. And I don't know why I deferred to that. As we're talking and I'm just putting stream of conscious things together, I grew up in a bit of a dysfunctional household. I was always the pillar, don't rock the boat. And so I wonder if some of that was still trickling up, right? Don't overextend your space, stay in your lane. I think I was learning that I could still be in my lane, that leader doesn't have to be in a big chair, that we all can contribute. And that, looking at our kind of our rough outline for today, I'm now in a new position. I'm at Crossroads of Michigan. I'm a senior level executive. I've been here 2 months. And all of this is what was going on in my mind that made this shift possible. I was very happy at Christ Church, very comfortable working in a religious institution. I was a bit of a unicorn with my musical knowledge, my church knowledge, and now this leadership knowledge. As I got more comfortable sitting at the leadership table got less comfortable with me.
Good point.
Yes, and that was something that I worked on during the program, and then afterward was, having to have conversations with my colleagues and my family members. I'm growing. I'm changing. The way that I am approaching problems and conflict is in flux right now. The great thing about coming to a leadership program as a middle-aged man, I have a working laboratory where I'm reading these concepts, I'm learning about conflict resolution, and every day I get to practice it. It's not the university lab. I am, but at the same time, I have to tell my colleagues, hey, you're going on this journey with me, whether you like it or not. because I am going to change the way that I come into meetings. I am going to change the way I communicate. I am going to learn to speak with active voice and with confidence, and to stop shying into passive voice and the passive. We need to come to an agreement, or we need to do this. And I can recall sitting in a staff meeting. There were just 5 of us at the staff meeting, and a colleague said, we need to really work better about keeping the bathroom stocked with essentials. And I said, why do you say we? Because we aren't going to do that. Who is the person who needs to do a better job stocking the bathroom with toiletries? And my colleague got very, very uncomfortable. And he's like, well, you. I'm like, yes, me. So just say, Joseph, can you be more on top of keeping the bathroom stocked? I'm a grown-up. Tell me, right? But there's a comfort when we just use the word we. We need to be nicer to one another. We need to get our deadlines met. Well, maybe I don't actually, and now my feelings are going to be, I'm going to get frustrated because you just told me that I need to meet my deadlines, and I am. Let's be grown-ups. Now, I'm not saying that in the boardroom or in that meeting you should call people out and embarrass them, but that's part of the arrangement that we have with our colleagues is this mutual respect. And hey, you're missing the boat, or you're missing the mark, and how does that impact the rest of the organization? Your report is late. So then this report has to be late because it needs information from that report. And, the train just backs up. And, how wonderful if we could all just live in a world where I could just say, hey, don't forget this is due. And then everyone does it. And then we all make our deadlines and the board is happy. So.
That, in a nutshell, is effective leadership.
Yes, thanks for joining us today.
One of the absolute joys in my life is watching people. I get to open this door of self-exploration to people who come to me and say, I've got the calling and I need a framework through which to work through this calling and find out what it really is, and in my world, in your world, it was the MS-OL program at College of St. Mary. But my joy is seeing people come in with imposter syndrome, but knowing that there's more that they can contribute. And intentionally, these people are kind of clinging to these social norms that they've put on themselves, this conditioning that they've put on themselves, or that has been put on them through family and society and, all the expectations that we have put on us. And it's like, I want to change, but this is who I am. So how can we change within this box? And what did you say, after 4 weeks, your fourth week, Joseph, you kind of let go of that box and went, wait a minute. How can I have one and still hold on to the other? Right. I'm going to answer this call because, first of all, I'm putting in a lot of time, effort, and money into this, right? So there's this motivation, but even higher than that, it's like, I want to find out, am I a leader or not? And with whether it's another degree, whether it's working with a really well-trusted, highly experienced mentor, whether it's within the structure of your organization, however you find this leadership development journey, it's important to hand yourself over to it, right? And you did. And it was a beautiful thing to see Joseph come out on the other end. It was like, yes, Joseph is a great guy and a great leader, but then each week, and it wasn't easy for you. I saw you struggle.
No, I did. And I love that image of the box because there's so much to that. Yes, we live in our box. Our box is comfortable. Our box is right-sized for us. And, any journey of self exploration and growth, you have to outgrow the box. And the challenge with that is then some of the box is gone, and I'm now faced with the whole world. And that is terrifying and also really cool. And I think that,
terrifying and cool in equal measure.
right. And they're not mutually exclusive. There are all these cliche metaphors, the goldfish that is only as big as the bowl, the plant that only grows as big as the pot. And once we start, once I hit that ground, once I realized that the box I was living in was too small for the Joseph that I want to be, then it was that everything was now on the table again. Yeah. I could, and not only, I keep talking about the scope of how I changed, because I didn't just change at work, because working on leadership is working on yourself. And so my relationships with my friends got healthier. I was able to tweak some things that were out of balance. I put up a couple of boundaries where boundaries needed to be put up. More than that, though, I was able to name what I was doing, so that as things were changing, I could inform and I could bring in this partnership and have a dialogue with, hey, friend, I'm gonna let you set the day that we're gonna get together, because I keep setting days and then you keep canceling. And so I'm gonna hand this to you. And when you want to get together with me, let's make it happen. There's no animosity, there's no anger, but I can give over the responsibility of managing this relationship, and then I have that bandwidth to go spend with the friend who really shows up every time I say, let's hang out, or that friend that really gets me and is happy to just sit in my living room with me and knit and not say anything, because that's one of the things that I learned about myself is I am a textbook introvert, but I live in a world that requires me to be an extrovert. Mm-hmm. And I was able, once I could identify that, it's like, oh, this is why I like to take naps. This is why I like to go to bed early, because I live in a world that is physically draining for me. I think I do it really well. I enjoy it. It's the path that I've chosen. But gosh, I do enjoy being around people that don't take any of my battery.
Yeah. I think you really touched on two important parts. And one is the courage it takes to face the next level of whatever it is, to leave behind that comfort zone and say, I'm ready to find out what's on the other side. And that's gutsy. That's not for the faint of heart. And also to do so with intent and purpose, so that we're not setting ourselves up for failure, whether it's, growing in our leadership or, however we intend to grow. But in this particular context, we're talking about leadership. So in the program, we learn these frameworks, and we added to the framework with different language and different tools, the emergenetics, the Gallup Strength Finders. We use the IDI now, like these things that aren't end all be all, but they give us these terms, and then we can start exploring self, and which is scary enough. Right. Then with this understanding of what's going on in here, I'm pointing to myself, we can look outward and say, what's going on with the people around us? So if I know that I really like the quiet and the peace, and I am an introverted person, I can stop saying, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me, because I'm not that charismatic, enigmatic, person who loves the spotlight. And of course, that's what leadership is, right? So what's wrong with me?
Exactly. This journey starts with acknowledgement. I don't know everything. And that's hard for some people, particularly those that are really high up a pyramid, right? I have a team now that expects me to know everything. And, it's very empowering for me now to have a team meeting to say, hey guys, I don't have the answer to this. This is where I want us to go. This is the metric I want us to hit. This is my vision. But from point A to point B, get me there. Help, let's all start throwing things up. And it's cool. But going now to I'm not wrong. There's nothing wrong with me. Yes, society expects CEOs and leaders to be these influencers that in hotel ballrooms, right? People, we see it on LinkedIn all the time, reach out to me and I can come public speak and all of that. And I remember going through the Emergetics and the Gallup Strength and realizing that the way I process and the way I critically think and the way that I engage in meetings is unique to me. Also critically important to a well-organized team. The team needs the person who's taking the notes. And it's always my role. I love to take notes in a meeting. And I always just thought that was what I did. And it made me a less than contributor because that's where my brain was. I was capturing the action items, the follow-up items, who's owning what. And I realized, no, actually, I'm just a really structured person. I have like 97% in my Emergenetics profile. That unleashed the power. Like I could start notes and writing unapologetically with my team and realizing that my taking notes allowed the conceptual thinkers in the room to also flourish because they knew I was capturing everything they were throwing out, and it freed them to maximize their potential and impact. I'm talking the class boundary spanning leadership has this great image of crayons that were all a unique color crayon. And yes, I can make a really beautiful picture with a green shirt or a green crayon. But if I have you, Beth, in the conversation, now I get green and purple. And that picture is going to just be able to have more detail. And now we get someone with a yellow shirt. And everybody that's coming, the picture just becomes more beautiful. It can have more depth, more real.
But the only way we can get there is by admitting who and what we are as objectively as possible. To your point about being 97% structural, I am 10% structural.
It's why we're such
there are
good friends.
rules. What? I don't even oh, really? So you're the person who needs to reel me in, Right. So I have always thought that my inability to follow structure has been a problem, something wrong with me. Isn't that interesting? Because you thought your high structure was something that was wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with either of us. There's nothing wrong with any of our listening audience. What tools do we have and how are we using them? And one of the most beautiful ways and safest ways to find that out is to find a program, a corporate program, an academic program, a certification program that helps you explore that. So you can explore it within a safety, but then you have to be willing to let go of those preconceived notions.
Absolutely.
That's where the bravery comes in.
Yes, exactly. My one of the conversations that I had that led me to a formal academic program started with a mentor conversation. Talking to a friend who middle level management, but we both enjoyed talking about how offices work. And at the time, we didn't call it leadership because I didn't have the words to equate to that. We just talked about how people function and, you know, the skills that I brought, balancing the skills someone else brought, and, you know, but then also how do those skills cause friction? You know, at the time I was working for somebody who joked about having no concept of time. And I am the antithesis of that. You know, time is, we're going to spend 17 minutes in this meeting, and in 17 minutes, I'm going to dismiss the meeting, regardless of where we are in the agenda. But I worked for somebody who loved 3-hour meetings. That was the sweet spot for that meeting. But all of that to say, I had that person, I had that friend who wanted to talk that with me, and that piqued my interest.
Yeah.
That cracked that egg. And yeah, it doesn't have to be the formal program because that's not cut out for everybody.
Right.
Particularly a 1-year intense online program. I mean, there were significant conversations with friends and family members about what I do. And for 1 year, I went to work from 7:30 to 5:30. I came home and I ate from 5:30 to 6, and then I turned on my computer. And I was at my computer from 6 until 10. And I was reading, I was writing, but I knew I could do that for a year. And then, but not everyone can. And I saw it in my cohort, the struggle with the people with different variables. But you're absolutely right, Beth. Find that outlet of like-minded people, but make it intentional. Make it where it's gonna hone you to improve and not just be a coffee club, which is not. I'm not going to say there's not a place for coffee clubs, because we all need that. But we also really benefit when we have that intentional, someone's going to lean on us and hold us accountable and challenge us to be a better self.
So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit and say that, or ask you to talk about leadership development from the other side. Right. You are clearly in upper leadership. You know, you don't get to be COO of an organization and not be not have developed and you know, have some serious leadership chops, which you do. So now that you're on that side, what advice do you have for people in your position, for senior leaders, for people running organizations, for people running departments? What can we do as leaders to bring up and open the door and foster and support the next group of leaders?
So I just one quick edit. I am operations director.
Sorry.
So and I only specify that because we are working in my organization to develop the C-suite titles. So that is a career goal for me. I fully intend to be COO at some point here at Crossroads. Not there yet. And so when my executive director listens to this, I just want to make sure he hears that I know my place. But
for now.
For now, yes. But so my advice from my own experience, which is engage your followers. When I got to Crossroads, the first 4 days of my time here, I met with every employee in the organization. And I said, tell me the good and the bad. And every one of them said, well, you don't want to hear the bad. I'm like, actually, I do. I really want to hear it. And so I got them to open up. And then my follow-up questions were, if you could change one thing about the way this place runs, what would it be? And then secondly, what is the absolute one thing in this organization that I should not change because it's perfect? And it was brilliant. And my favorite part was hearing the staff talk amongst themselves and saying things like, no, he really wants to hear. He really wants it. Like, I told him blah, blah, blah. And he wrote it down. Like, I think he really wants to hear this. The other thing that happened during those conversations were people started talking about their colleagues and telling me, oh, this person is untapped talent. And if you look at this person, you're going to see it. They're really great, but they should be doing more. They have potential. And then the best part is that then when I talk to these other people, I get to say, your colleagues think you're amazing. And there is nothing that is going to build up someone like giving them an unasked for compliment that you heard from someone else.
Yes,
To
a compliment
a
that's
person.
founded, with the, as I always say, with the evidence.
Right.
I'm not making this up, but so-and-so said, you really brought it.
I don't know anything about you right now, but I do know that you have untapped potential and that your colleagues think that you are doing an amazing job with your job. And they always sit up.
Mm-hmm.
They sit up and they talk a little different.
Yeah. Because you give them voice, right? These are people who, my voice doesn't matter. Even if they're feeling this call to leadership, the door is closed until someone like Joseph comes and says, I want to hear you. I really want to know. Here, lead me a little bit to get to know you. No, you're the leader, Joseph. Yes. And I'm asking you to lead me in this moment. Right. And people, that imposter syndrome can start to melt away. People can start to feel, my voice matters. Maybe I do have some leadership potential. Maybe I can contribute. Yes.
And yes, and so everyone I told, the end of the conversation is always, my door is open. When you think of something else I need to know, come tell me. And I do clarify that my listening to you and my hearing you doesn't always mean I'm going to do your idea. That sometimes we get stuck with that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't take my idea, so you must not have heard me. No, if I heard you, and I've taken your idea and I'll ponder it, and I'll consider it. But the other thing I do, so my job here at Crossroads, my 90-day challenge was to take us, our client-facing services, and to rebuild it with I had two missions from my executive director from day one. Number one, see and serve more clients. Number two, see and serve more clients better.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything I've done in my 2 months here has a direct line to that. How can I see more people? How can I increase the quality of these interactions so that they're not transactional, but that they're human-centered, and that we're seeing people? And so I'm back in my office. I've got my whiteboard behind me with all my ideas, my spreadsheets and my flow charts and all of my lean efficiency models going. And before I take anything to my boss to say, this is what we're doing, I go out to my team and I say, walk this with me, because I've got it in my brain, right? I'm a systems and operations person and I love it. I love a good flow chart, but I'm not boots on the ground. And that's what I need. I need that scrutiny to my idea. Mm-hmm. And so I'll go out and I'll just huddle everyone up. And it's not a formal meeting. It's not brainstorming session, it's literally like, hey, here's my printout. And this is what I'm thinking. We're going to start here, and then we're going to go here, and we're going to go to here. And, oftentimes it's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then more often than not, there's, oh, wait, what about this? Or what about that? I'm like, oh, and so I'm like a little like shoemaker in my workshop. And then I run out, we try the shoe on, and then I run back to my workshop. And then when I feel like my team is ready to buy in and has essentially signed off on it, then I go to my boss, because then I can say, this is vetted. The people that are going to do it have bought into it. Mm-hmm. And when my boss starts the ricochet of, have you thought of, have you thought of, have you thought of, I can say yes. And I have an answer for that.
So when you use your voice to express an idea or make a proposal to meet the goal, the North Star, right? Their voices are being heard, and they can see that. The people you lead see that. So it's not like, yeah, this was my idea. It's our idea. We have come up with this. I have worked for so many terrible leaders, and that might be what inspired me to really go into the field of leadership to help be part of the solution. But I can also remember working on my bachelor's degree, and I had to work full time. I had 2 kids. I was a single mom, 2 kids at home. I mean, the only time I had to study, or one of the only times, was on my lunch break. And so I was studying. I had a math book out or whatever I was doing. And my boss at the time walked in and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm taking lunch." "No, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm studying." "Not here, you don't." "What? This is a place of work. I'm on my lunch." "No, put it away. You will keep your head in this game. I am paying you," kind of a thing. And I thought, oh, and then I had to hide my journey. I think giving someone a voice and recognizing their efforts and saying, "I'm proud of you." What if this boss had walked into my office and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm doing math. I'm working on a bachelor's degree." And they said, "Oh, I'm so proud of you. What a great journey. As soon as lunch is over, we'll get back in the game. But in the meantime, get them." We don't realize when we are in leadership positions, the language we use, the way we can shut people down, or we can open up their opportunities, whether it's just their voice or supporting them on this leadership journey. The way we interact with their leadership journey matters profoundly.
All the time. There is never a pause button with that. When I walk the building to go get coffee, I say hi to everybody. I say hi by their name. I ask how it's going. I'm part of what I'm challenged to do here is to learn the process. Like I need to understand what we're doing better than anyone else in the building, so that I can tweak it and modify it. And I had to teach my team that when I came to your workstation and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" That's not a judgment question. That is literally an information finding question. Tell me what you're doing. How does this process work? What does this pile of papers mean? What database are you inputting in? Why do we input into this database? And to see, to flip the script and to have the non-leader teach the leader, that's a cool moment.
That's a cool moment.
In that they see I'm a human being. I'm not practicing great man leadership. I am just Joseph. If that'll be the title of my leadership book, just Joseph, because that's who I am. And that's how I just want to know, teach me. And so now there's this rapport, that I walk up and it doesn't get quiet anymore. because I hate that when you walk in and everyone's like, oh, the boss is here, so stop having fun. Like, no, actually tell me, what are you laughing about? I want to know the joke. You know, and there were times I walk up and they're really busy and I dive in and I help, you know, do a couple of things to to lower the temperature in the room. I think it's a missed opportunity when leaders think that something is not their job. Recently, I thought about that, like that I've come to loathe that phrase. This isn't my job. Because it's just such a loaded statement of judgment. And I don't know, like, the phrase that we should use in its place, because there are things in the organization that aren't the best use of my time. Maybe that's it. You know, like there are things that I do in the organization that only I can do, and I need to focus my time on them. I'm not above restocking toiletries in a bathroom. I'm not above making a fresh pot of coffee when I pour the last cup out of the communal coffee pot. And I think if leaders in this audience feel like that's not their job, right? Like I'm going to pour the last cup and I'm going to walk away, and someone else whose job it is. I think that's the first chink in that eggshell of self-exploration. Why can't you just make that new coffee? Yeah. Why can't you wipe the sink down if you go in and there's water everywhere? Like that's, you know.
Yeah. Here's what I'm hearing you say, Joseph. And what I'd like you to do is sum it up at the end and tell me what you're really saying. What I'm hearing you saying is that all of us have some leadership potential. All of us. We just owe it to ourselves and to one another and to the people we can potentially contribute to, you know, to find out what that potential is. Answer that call in a small way or a big way. Answer it with intent. And that can be through a mentorship relationship. It can be through some kind of corporate training. It can be through certification. It can be through a degree program. But answer that call intentionally and in a structured way, and learn the tools that we have to bring to the table, right? They might not be the ones that we think are valuable, but what are our tools? What are our strengths, and how do we use them authentically and in service of other people and whatever the goal is? And finally, to listen, to know that the burden of leadership isn't on me alone. That's such a huge onus. My gosh, no wonder we don't step out of our comfort zones to embrace leadership. The idea of doing it alone is terrifying, but you're saying no. You bring your team with you. You let them do what they do so well, and you lead their gifts and contributions. And did I sum it up accurately?
You did, Beth. I almost don't even want to add to it, because you did. I think the one thing that I would add in that is at the very end, that team, that recognition that everyone has a magic power. That's my phrase for it. What is your magic power? What do you do better than everyone else? And I think when leaders can look at their team, to their colleagues, and say, what is your magic power? What are you going to do or what do you do? That's the power. And yes, this idea of no man is an island. It is. I'm chuckling to myself because we started with my admonition that we should never use the word "we" in a group, but now we really should, because But it's a true we. We are creating something. We are growing together. Everybody in your organization is a leader, just no matter their title. And I think the best, I'm an adaptive leader, so I'm all about helping the organization flourish. And I do that by getting everybody in the organization to be the best they can be. And I don't think that is that doesn't need to be a unique trait to adaptive leaders. I think we can all take a moment and celebrate the unique qualities of our people.
I think that is a primary part of leading with love, right?
Absolutely.
Let's demonstrate how amazing you are, and how amazing you are, and how amazing you are. And if you're not so amazing, we're going to tell you that too, and get you to the point where you are. But it really is about celebrating one another in the best ways. And I celebrate you, Joseph, Daniel-Hoste. It's what a joy it's been. I'm going to turn it around real quick and turn the conversation to you, which I know you don't love, but here we go. I'm doing it anyway because I know you'll forgive me. And ask what's going on in your world that you would like the Lovin Leadership audience to know about. What's going on?
So a plug for Crossroads of Michigan, the nonprofit I work for, Crossroads of Michigan, spelled out, .org. Here in Metro Detroit, we are changing lives. I'm a professional musician still. I am still a practicing musician. I play with a number of orchestras, regional orchestras here in Southeast Michigan. I'm an active composer. So a Google search for Joseph Daniel music usually pulls up some great examples of my work. I'm recently married, so Daniel-Hoste isn't yet fully out there in the Google world. But when we hyphenated, we decided to put my name first because that was I've got the published credentials there. So that should make it a little easier. But yeah, that's just kind of my life.
What a fantastic life it is. And
it is.
I'm so blessed to be part of it. When we were in the MSOL journey together, I was blessed, and I still continue to be blessed every time I am with you, Joseph. So thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me, Beth. This has been brilliant.
And thank you, the Lovin Leadership audience, for tuning into the podcast today. Please be sure to subscribe, like, share this episode, and hit the notifications button so you won't miss out on a single thing. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and that Joseph and I inspired you to answer the call to be the best leader that you can be. Remember that leading with love is a superpower that transforms the world around us. So let's go out there and make a difference, one loving act at a time. I'm Dr. Beth Merkel, and I can't wait to connect with you again on the next episode of Lovin Leadership. This podcast was made possible by the College of St. Mary, offering a fast-track opportunity for professionals to achieve a master's degree in organizational leadership online in just 12 months. Tailored for working individuals, our program paves the way for career advancement. Take the next stride in your journey with the College of St. Mary. Apply now at csm.edu/MSOL and unlock your leadership potential today. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey we call Lovin Leadership. Now it's time for you to take action and unleash your true leadership potential. Here are 4 easy steps you can take today. Number 1, subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Number 2, share. Share the love with your friends, colleagues, and fellow leaders. Number 3, connect to our Lovin Leadership community by clicking the link below. And finally, take the knowledge and wisdom that you've gained from this podcast and put it into action. The Lovin Leadership podcast is more than just a podcast. It's a movement. Together, let's rewrite the leadership narrative and create a world where love, passion, and purpose thrive. I can't wait to see the incredible impact you'll make as a Lovin leader. Stay tuned for our next episode, and until then, lead on with love.